This is a story about love. It's a story about love when it's not obvious where love can go now after everything has changed. When someone you have loved is no longer available to receive that love. This video is not about fixing grief after someone you love has died and is gone and you can no longer talk to in the same way and receive answers from in the same way. This is not about 5 steps to feeling better when you're grieving. This is a chance for you to be seen and heard and understood. When I started this video about a half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, I will just say that it did not turn out like I expected. Did not turn out the way I scripted it. I did have a distinctive map, but as I was recording, I didn't feel like I just wanted to tell more right away. So this is becoming a 2-part series, very short series, perhaps, or maybe more, who knows? These stories are not easy to tell, and they're not easy to hear. And my hope is that in hearing these parts of my story that you more than likely don't know yet, that you will feel comforted and you will realize that sometimes the happiest people you see out there doing some surprising things or goofy things or unexpected things, they live the way that they live because of love and loss and experience and being unwilling to make the sadness and the grief and sometimes things like depression be what defines their lives. So if you're in any of those circumstances, I hope that you will take this as some sort of solace. And I hope that you will feel seen. And if you'd like to leave a comment about your experience, great. If you're not ready to do that, please follow along. I have lots of videos about a lot of different things where these topics don't come up because we're all so unique and varied and we all have all kinds of experiences. So, welcome. Have a cup of tea. Listen. Connect. And know that your story is really important. And when you don't have any place for your love to go for your loved one anymore in the same way, just know that it still exists. Thanks for watching. Let's keep going. Every grief experience I've had has changed me in some way. But every grief story that I have lived got its beginnings on a day in February, not unlike today. The first major loss of my life happened when I was 28 years old. I was in the passenger seat of my Chevy Celebrity. It was, believe it or not, my company car at the time. And we were careening down Interstate 5 trying to get to the hospital. That is when I delivered my stillborn daughter, myself, into my own hands. I was never quite the same after that. I like to think that I'm better than I would have been, maybe, but that's never the price you want to pay. I looked at grief head on. Like many people who are goal-oriented as I am, we know that we have to get through this grief thing, so we ought to look at a list and check it off and do all the things so we can feel better quicker, right? I went to therapy and the grief support groups. I followed all the instructions. I read the books. I talked to whomever would listen. And while these things help, they don't take away the grief. Having more children didn't take away the grief. In some ways, after my second daughter was born, for a while there, it was even more challenging because I really got to see what I had lost. You lose everything when you lose a baby at birth. You lose the first step, the first laugh, the first mama, the first day of kindergarten, the first date, the first. It's all gone. So for those of you who've experienced a stillbirth, you've lost a dream of an entire life. In those early years of my young motherhood, the grief really faded into the background because I was too busy for grief. I once had a therapist say to me, I think you're too busy to be depressed. Maybe that's a part of it, of grief, is that sometimes we run away from it too quickly for it to process for us. Again, we A personalities. We want to be busy. We want to be doing stuff. We want to be enjoying life. The one thing that that first big loss did was it helped prepare me for other losses. And again, that's never a price that you want to pay. But we do live in a society that wants us to look on the bright side, even when there really is none. So my next really big loss was a friend loss. I lost a friend to cancer when I was 41. And that was a really, again, a rough one to take. Partially because it was such a shock. I only had a week to get used to the fact that my friend was dying, and I would never see him again alive because he lived all the way across the country. One of the things from that loss that I at least got to experience that was so bittersweet was helping my friend and his wife. They were both very close friends with me. We met in college, we were in each other's weddings, that sort of thing. I was able to help them navigate what was hopefully one of their last disagreements. And one of the early memories from that is that when I found out that he was likely to die very soon, when I got that call, I was about to teach teleclasses were what we had before webinars. And I remember dialing into the bridge line that was on, and I was so close to how I am right now. And I said, is anyone on the line yet? Can anyone out there hear me? And that's what grief is like sometimes. Can anyone out there hear me? Does anyone else want to talk about this? Because so often people are so uncomfortable with it that it is an untalkaboutable. I have a series of video series about that that's really gold. I'll do my best to link to it in the description because I talk about what happens when people don't want to talk about things, both for themselves and for others. So my good friend died, and I wasn't able to get across the country for his funeral. And I finally saw his widow a few years later. And I still would like to see her more, but I'm not in close contact with her at all. And that also causes grief. So strange the things we do. I follow her kids on Instagram so that I can occasionally catch sight of her. And I can occasionally see her husband and her children's faces, which I do. I never imagined that that's what would happen. Ironically, on that teleseminar, there was another friend who's from Ireland, and she ended up also dying of cancer. It's ironic. And as I said before, each death prepares you for the next one in some way that we may not understand until many years later. When love has nowhere to go in conventional ways, we invite love back in unconventional ways. The grief doesn't go away. And we can use that grief to find a new and different way. So after my friend died, my brother died. My brother directly below me. He's 13 months younger than me. He was 13 months younger than me. And he had Down syndrome, and we were extremely close. We were close in a way that we communicated without language because his speech wasn't all that great. I understood him more probably than most people, but that's because I was also clued into his body language and to his eye movements and to the slight changes in his body. Like he would go like this and I'd be able to translate it. It was a pretty one-of-a-kind type relationship. Now, when John died, this is an experience I've never lived again. But when John died, I had an out-of-body experience unlike any that I've had. I've had one other out-of-body experience when I almost died. But when John died, it was similar in that I left my body. And literally shot out of my body. I believe it was my soul seeking him, because I could not imagine life without him, because my whole life, since before I could speak and walk, he was there. And I was always his fiercest advocate and protector. So up I went, and down I got pushed back. My job wasn't over yet here. I would not have believed that story, perhaps, except my daughter sitting next to me in the car when I got the call that my brother had died. My mom called me because she knew that I would know. Because when John was in the hospital, I would call her and say, something's going on with John, please call and check. And she would call and check, and there would be things wrong every time. So she called me literally as soon as he was dead. And my daughter said that she literally saw the lifting of my body, and then saw the falling of my body, and saw that my head was about to hit the steering wheel and didn't. It like bounced, well, not bounced off the steering wheel. It bounced up, and I didn't get hurt. So that loss was very, very difficult. And my last act of advocacy for John was to facilitate his celebration of life. Before John died, I was visiting the hospital. I did that regularly in those last few months. I would drive from Bakersfield to Orange County at the drop of a hat. And he was closed. And my eldest brother had come to visit, which was a big deal. And my dad was there. And when it was just me and Mom together, Mom said, we're not going to have a funeral. It's too hard. And I turned and I looked at her and I said, are you kidding me? If it was any of the rest of us, would we be having this conversation? We will have a funeral. I'll take care of it. I marry people. I can have a service for him. So I did. At John's celebration of life, it was, what can I say? The feedback I got from people was really surprising to me, because, of course, I did not know what the heck I was doing. I'd never done anything like that. And I went on intuition and some funeral resources I found. I made sure to include some Christianity stuff for my uncle, who I knew that would be important too. I spoke on the Beatitudes, and I had lots of space for people to share. And we had a meal, and we were at the park where we used to have family softball games, where all of us 6 siblings would invite our friends to come and play like a pickup game of softball, which was always well looked forward to by all of us, I think. And we were in a circle, and I led everybody in the ritual. And afterwards, people came, and they just were so grateful that I did this. So grateful that I told my mom, I will do it. And we did it. A thought just came through my head. I've never had this thought before, but I wonder if Marlena hadn't died, would I have had the courage to do that for my brother? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes people say the cliche, everything happens for a reason, and I don't even know that I agree with that. I think sometimes it just makes us feel better to say that. So we don't talk about sibling death hardly at all. And we don't talk about people who have special needs or different needs at all. So before I lost my parents, where my nose is running. Before I lost my parents, I lost my daughter. I lost a dear friend and more friends and my brother. Grief is inevitably about love. Grief is what happens when you want to love someone still, and you do love someone still, and that person isn't there to receive it. And so we sometimes get lost in not knowing ways to continue it. In the next video in this series, I'll talk about grieving our parents, and continuing to develop as people who know how to grieve and people who support other grievers. And I will talk about sort of, for lack of a better term, collateral damage, those invisible things that come with, like when we lose our parents, those unexpected things that we didn't know would happen. It can be kind of complicated, and I would just really like to share with you not just my experiences, but what I've learned from those experiences. And hopefully I won't cry as much now that I've done this part, which is definitely the harder part. I hope if you've made it this far that you'll hear when I say, and I'll probably talk about this again, people, after my daughter died, people were like really encouraging me to write a book about her death, and I've always been hesitant to do such a thing, mostly because I didn't want my life to be all about loss and grief. I prefer to be an expert in life, and life includes death. So I'm an expert in talking about things that other people won't necessarily want to talk about. So thank you for watching this far. If you did, coming up, you'll see places where you can watch other videos, you can subscribe, you can follow, you can hopefully connect with me in some way again, because I really value people's stories, people's lives, and connecting with folks, because love needs somewhere to go. We're made of love. We are love. So thank you. Thank you again for being here. You matter. Your stories matter. And the world is a better place because you are in it.